You ever have someone plant their finger right in the middle of your chest like they're ringing a doorbell on your soul and tell you to get off your own porch, all while you're literally holding the deed with your name printed in black and white? Yeah, that was my welcome to Cedar Glass Lake. 72 hours into being a proud homeowner. And here's this lady in a tennis skirt and pastel blazer bulldozing me backwards like she owns the rights to my oxygen. Movers were frozen mid-step. My coffee mug was still warm in my hand, and I was just standing there, deed outstretched, honestly wondering if I'd stumbled into some kind of avant-garde play. As calmly as I could, I say, "But who am I kidding?" She snatches the deed right out of my hand, tries to rip it clean in half, only to realize it's laminated. Bless my paranoid heart for that. She flings it on the doormat, stomping it with those blinding white heels, each stomp hammering in her words, "This is community property. You're trespassing." Meanwhile, out on my dock yoga mats are lined up like little pastel flags. 15 people bent into shapes. God never intended some dude in linen banging a singing bowl like he's launching the spaceship to peace. She shoots me this smile, pure weaponized entitlement, then informs me I'm interrupting her sunrise meditation session. Sunrise my foot. Let me back up a sec. Name's Jack Mercer. 3 days ago, I really believed I was retiring from chaos. I'd just spent a year buried in lawsuits. After blowing the whistle on a farm scheme out of Chicago, came out here to Willow Bend Shores for some quiet cove, good fishing, friendly neighbors. What the listing didn't mention, because how could it, was that Willow Bend had its own self-crowned Queen Lydia Harrow. And in her mind, every grain of sand belonged to her if she glared at you hard enough. So here I am, feeling more like an intruder than a homeowner, when my lead mover, Frank, hollers from the truck, "Ma'am, we got a work order, this address, this name. Can we unload or not?" Lydia spins so fast, her helmet of hair actually wobbles. "You unload one box, and I'll have you all arrested for theft." She whips out her phone, slow as molasses so everyone can see, and calls 911, claims there's a violent man with accomplices refusing to leave the community wellness space, possibly armed. I look down, ketchup stain on my shirt. World's okayest fisherman mug in my hand. Not exactly menacing. Ohio's one-party consent. So I start recording these days. It's not just smart, it's survival. I point to the crowd on my dock. "Are they paying you?" She spits back that I don't have standing to ask, but before she can finish, some tattooed kid in a messy bun yells, "We paid $500 and another braver still, $800 if you want the crystal thing at sunrise." I swear Lydia's face does a color I've never seen on a living person. "Ray," Lydia snaps, "you signed a confidentiality clause." Ray shrugs. "My mom's an oncologist. She says your lake mineral therapy is just expensive sitting." That's when Mrs. Collier shuffles up a silver-haired sentinel with a walker rigged with tennis balls steel in her eyes and a voice that rings out like a church bell. "Lydia, this young man's done everything by the book. You're not stealing another house from this street." I would come to learn she'd seen 37 winters here and just as many HOA presidents, but none as dangerous as the one currently poking holes in the ozone with her hairspray. Right on cue, sirens, 2 police cruisers. The younger cop, Officer Lane, is all polite smiles, like you'd be with your nightmare aunt, who still gives good Christmas gifts. "Morning, Miss Harrow," he says, and my heart sinks. They're on a first-name basis. Lydia spins a story about me breaking into the Whitaker property, painting me as dangerous. I hand over my license, hold up my deed again. Lane barely glances. Sergeant Ruiz, the older officer, actually reads it, runs her thumb over the county seal, checks the transfer date, looks me in the eye. This appears legitimate. "Ma'am, where's your authority to remove a titled owner?" Lydia pulls a folder out of her purse, pulls out the HOA charter like it's a golden ticket. But I can smell the fresh ink. Weird fonts, desktop clip art. The thing expired in 2019. And just then a man in a bathrobe, Darren Holt, engineer by day, record keeper by night, shouts from across the yard, "You never got it renewed. I've been asking for the books for 2 years." He steps forward like he's been waiting in the wings for this exact moment. "You're disrupting neighborhood harmony," Lydia hisses. "You're running an unlicensed wellness business on property you don't own," I shoot back. "You're charging folks to stand on my dock." She doesn't answer because suddenly my phone's buzzing, and for the first time that morning I feel my shoulders loosen. Sergeant Ruiz tells me I'm not under arrest. That means I get to make a call, the only one that matters. The plan, my plan, the mayor's plan. The plan for those folks with jackets covered in acronyms. All of it flips from maybe to go. McKenna, a voice answers on the second ring. Code 9 at Cedar Glass. Harrow. Immediate. 2 minutes later, 3 black SUVs roll up synchronized like a parade windbreaker's earpieces, the whole government orchestra. The center door opens and out steps Mayor Eli McKenna himself, still built. Like the linebacker he was before politics, chin like it should be stamped on coins. He walks straight to Officer Lane. "Release Mr. Mercer." And then Mayor Lane's stammered federal asset, he says, waving a document with enough watermarks to buy a lake. "This property's under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Marshal Service and leased to our office as a safe residence. Impeding occupancy is a federal crime." He doesn't have to raise his voice, everyone just stops. Even the lake seems to go still. Lydia tries to laugh, points her phone at herself, starts live streaming. "Beautiful souls. The government is silencing our healing." McKenna doesn't miss a beat, steps into her shot. "Ma'am, you're live streaming evidence of consumer fraud." "Please, by all means, continue." Ray grins. Lane edges backward. Ruiz looks like someone just lifted a piano off her back. Then an Uber rolls up a man in a suit that's seen better days, limps out, ankle monitor blinking under his pant leg tie, hanging on for dear life. "Graham." Lydia gasps, every syllable dripping panic. "Tell them." But he just stares at her. "Tell them what? That I'm a former judge who lost my seat for taking bribes, that my wife runs a fake medical spa, a fake HOA, and an actual gambling boat." Agent Patel, FBI jacket, crisp and sharp, leans in. "Gambling boat." Graham sighs. She takes high rollers out, 12 miles at dusk, roulette wheels, card tables under the juice bar, cash only. "I told her it'd end like this." Lydia snaps, "You're drunk," but Graham just shakes his head. "I'm done co-signing your delusions." Mrs. Collier folds her hands on her walker, leans in, not even whispering. "You suppose her Tesla will save her or betray her?" Before I can answer, Lydia bolts for her car. The Tesla, smarter than its owner, chirps, locks up, and when she cracks the window to holler about persecution, Agent Patel opens the door like he's grabbing a roast from the oven. "Lydia Harrow, you're being detained while we sort this out." Detainment turns to arrest real quick. The feds sweep the place, my place. Now finding retreat spaces built into the garage, a wall menu in the guest room, charging $300 for chakra alignment, $500 for lake mineral infusions, bags of saline in the fridge, sugar pills in amber bottles, even locked files with medical histories and bank ledgers with enough cash deposits to make the IRS weep. There's a list, names, threats, notes like increased pressure until he breaks or leaves. Agent Patel whistles low as the Coast Guard calls in. They've found a 42-foot cruiser tied to Lydia's cousin, complete with hidden roulette wheels and a ledger showing over $150,000 laundered through shell companies. Sergeant Ruiz mutters, "That's not a wellness retreat, that's a casino." Neighbors start bleeding into the street, blinking in the daylight. Darren Holt brings out folders, illegal fines, threat letters, photos of tape measures on grass inspectors peeking through curtains. A woman with her arm in a sling, Ava says Lydia cut their water after they questioned dues. The Renfro's young couple say they sold out at a loss when violations piled up. And Mrs. Collier clears her throat voice like glass. Mr. Lang, 71, walked the lake every morning. She papered his door with threats. He had a heart attack 2 weeks later. Air changes when grief walks in. Wry eyes, blazing steps forward. I recorded her telling a woman to skip chemo. I'll give you everything. She means it. News vans show up, microphones, cameras, the whole circus. McKenna gives one tight statement, federal investigation, patient victims, then steps aside so residents can finally speak. Darren talks about 3 years of fear. Mrs. Collier talks about how July 4th became a punishable offense. Graham, in a moment of actual honesty, faces a camera. I chose her power over my oath. Don't make my mistake. By afternoon, the charges read like a grocery list from hellwire fraud, tax evasion, practicing medicine without a license, money laundering, illegal gambling, real estate fraud, conspiracy. State adds negligent homicide tied to Mr. Lang's death. Judge denies bail, ankle monitor, crowd watches, one of their own swap tennis skirts for jail orange. But here's the thing. Adrenaline fades, and you're left with quiet. Not peace, not yet. Just quiet. You sweep the glass that never broke, you let the house breathe again, and you learn people's names. The Whitakers who'd sold under pressure come by with pie, apologizing and welcoming at the same time. McKenna shakes their hands. Promises, restitution assets, frozen, path back open. 3 months later, I sit in court. Rye plays the recording of Lydia promising miracles if you ditch chemo. Darren lays out ledgers. Sergeant Ruiz testifies to the deed. The judge says calmly, "This is not your kingdom." On day 2, I take the stand. Porch, yoga mats, stomped deed, all of it. The prosecutor shows the note. Increase pressure until he breaks, and I laugh short and sharp because sometimes villains write their own punchlines. 93 minutes of jury deliberation, guilty on everything that matters. Federal judge gives 12 years, state judge adds 8 more. Graham gets 5 after flipping moves to Florida, becomes a paralegal suing HOAs. Irony's got GPS. But what matters is what came next. The county auditor writes, checks back to homeowners for all the stolen dues, clawing back properties, offering them back to folks who lost them. First Sunday without Lydia. We hold a potluck, honest to God, you could feel the neighborhood exhale. We didn't rebuild an HOA, just a group text, a Saturday morning crew fixing docks, and a sign at the entrance, Willow Bend Shores neighbors first, rules second. Nobody's measured a blade of grass since. The state names a law after Mr. Lang opened books for any HOA bans on fines for interior decor, caps on daily penalties. No more utility shutoffs over nonsense. Darren runs for council on a single plank sunlight and wins. Me, I found what I didn't know I was looking for. I wake up early, drink coffee on the dock sometimes with Mrs. Collier, sometimes helping strangers 3 states away draft letters to fight their own Lydias. McKenna calls me an accidental expert in HOA drama. I call myself a guy with a porch and a good memory. There's a little plaque by the garden Lydia tried to pave over bronze, no flourish, never again. Kids fish from boards that used to hold crystal grids. Teenagers steal kisses under the lights we strung up last fall. The dock belongs to all of us and none of us just like it should. People ask if the mayor set a trap. Truth is, the trap was already there, built out of arrogance and greed, waiting for someone to walk into it. All Eli did was open the door and let the truth pour in. So here's my question for you, because I know some of you are living with your own Lydia, maybe quieter, maybe just as poisonous. Where's the line between community and control, between standards, and stalking, between wellness and actual harm? If you'd been on my porch that morning, would you have stood your ground or just paid the fine to keep the peace? Drop your take below. Tell me where you draw the line when an HOA helps, when it hurts. Tell me what justice looks like where you live. And hey, if you've got a story that needs sunlight, send it my way. We'll drag it out together and see what survives.